which we'll get into King David in this book, First Samuel. So, it's important to mention how everything is coming together and how we're seeing the deception, or I should say the disobeying of the Hebrews as far as the Hebrew law, and it's coming to this point. So we basically have Hannah. Hannah basically gives birth to Samuel. Samuel is basically, given to Eli to be raised as a Nazarite, like Samson was. Remember, a Nazarite cannot, drink or eat, unclean food or shave. So the whole thing was Eli had two sons. Now, it's a shortage at this time of priests. So, Eli's sons was basically in line to be priests, but they was out there disobeying God and breaking the laws and what have you. So Eli took in Samuel to basically raise him because he was basically needed during this time. Remember, often Judges with basically everybody doing their own thing and people basically, deciding for themselves what they believe is right and what have you. So you had this time where Samuel basically being raised up to become a priest. And, the Hebrews found themselves again, basically at the mercy or being conquered by the Philistines. Remember, when it ends off, you have Samson. He basically kills a bunch of the Philistines, but it doesn't kill them all. So the Philistines basically come back up and are still ruling Israel. So you have the Philistines, in power. You have the Hebrews trying to get out of, the whole thing, the whole situation that they're in. So they basically go up and they try to go to war with the Philistines. So the Philistines, they beat them. They conquered them because, again, the Hebrews have disobeyed and they don't have the power with them, as far as God helping them out. So what happens eventually is the Philistines basically, defeat the Hebrews in a war. And during that war, Eli's two sons are killed and the Philistines steal the Ark of the Covenant. Now, after Eli basically hears that his two sons have been killed and the Ark of the Covenant has been stolen and taken by the Philistine, he falls out of his chair. He dies. He's like 98 years old. So, he dies. He falls out of his chair. And eventually the Ark of the Covenant will be returned to the Hebrews because the Philistines start getting all kinds of diseases and sickness or what have you. And they attributed that to some kind of curse of the Ark of the Covenant, so they basically give it back. So that basically kind of sums up the beginning of First Samuel, what's taking place. Him being basically given to Eli to be taught as a priest and to basically help him out because his sons are basically sinning. So Eli, instills a lot of the, beliefs within him as far as the Nazarite beliefs. And, the Hebrews are still trying to come out of captivity and they fighting, but they're not winning because they're not, holy no more. Ark of the Covenant is stolen. And it's almost as if, it's a sign for the Hebrews to wake up. And they try to. So you have this happen. And then, after it happens, basically the Hebrews look to Samuel, as the judge or the deliverer now. And says to Samuel, we need you to basically appoint us a king. They understand that all other civilizations have kings, and it seems like, everything is going right. But Samuel is basically trying to tell them and warn them that it's not cool to have a king. These are the type of things that can happen. So we're going to start at 1 Samuel chapter 8. Let's go here to start at 7. It says, And the Lord said unto Samuel, Hearken unto the voice of the people, in all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them. So basically you have to understand that this is like one of the biggest spits in the face to God. It's like, I gave y'all a way for y'all to exist outside of all the bull crap that all other people is basically going through. Basically being robbed by their kings and what have you. But Samuel was looking at it as if, one, everybody else became judges and deliverers for Israel, and eventually would, rule the people and, guide the people into the ways of, the religion or what have you. But they didn't want that. They wanted a king. So they didn't ask Samuel to basically be king. They said, hey, appoint us a king. And God is like, what are you doing with a king? Like, we have our own ways, our own customs of the Hebrews or the Israelites. Why take a king? It's going against, God. So he says, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them, according to all the works which they have done since the day that I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so did they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto them their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people that asked him a king. And he said, this will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He will take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, and to be his horsemen, and some shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint him captains over thousands and captains over fifties, and will set them to ear his ground, and to reap his harvest, and to make his instruments of war and instruments of his chariots. And he will take your daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks, and to be bakers. And he will take your fields, and your vineyards, and your olive yards, even the best of them, and give them to his servants. And he will take the tenth of your seed and of your vineyards, and give to his officers and to his servants. And he will take your men servants and your maid servants and your goodliest young men and your asses, and put them to his work. And he will take the tenth of your sheep, and ye shall be his servants. And ye shall cry out in that day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you, and the Lord will not hear you in that day. Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, Nay, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the other nations. Come on. And that our king may judge us, and go out before us, and fight our battles. And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And Samuel said unto the men of Israel, Go ye every man unto his city. So now we understand what's being said here. These people slick. They smart at what they doing when they writing this stuff. And it's getting people to understand, one, the Bible is clearly telling you that kings are wrong. Plain and simple. Kings are not good. This is what they do. And basically, when you look at kings, this is what they do. He's trying to separate themselves from the destruction, or I should say, the wrongdoing that they're involved in. As far as we know, the rulers are kings, royal people. And it's trying to make you believe that if you are just a holy people and outside of these kingdoms, this is the way to go. This is the way it's supposed to be. But the people are basically asking for kingdoms. The people are getting what they want. You know, you don't want to be holy, good people. You want to be ruled by people. And you got to think about being born into a civilization that has a king and you never asking for this king to be here. It's something that was done before you was born, but it's not something that you truly understand, nor do you have the power to stop, you know. But it's trying to justify the king's position and justify the fact that you have all these kings and rulers that are doing wrong to the people, but you know, it's basically the people's fault. They basically, if you accept what's being said here in the book, you know, then you are basically, you know, you are letting them out of the wrongdoing that they have been doing as kings and rulers in many different countries. So by the Bible saying that, you know, kings is wrong and this is what they do, and we see in real life this stuff is happening. This is what these kings do when they basically take, you know, the kids and put them in militaries, and the best bakers and the best cooks basically work in the palace and everything like that. And they basically use the people for their gain. So God is basically saying, you don't want a king. This is what's going to happen to you. And civilization is saying, we don't care. We'll take it. Now it's important for you to understand what God is saying here. He's saying, okay, y'all want to disobey me. Y'all want a king. He's telling Samuel, okay, appoint them a king. Now, it's almost giving you a hint that something is going to go wrong, which we already know it will, but it's making it as if God is basically punishing the Hebrews for making this decision. But again, if you accept that, then you're accepting the fact, you're letting it slide that we had all these bad kings before, and God let it exist, and you know, the people let it exist. is trying to make it as if the people was wrong for selecting the king and not God. So now we see what will later take place, where you have the replacement of kings and rulers with governments, with systems. And this is basically how they can hide. See, now, if something goes wrong, if we had a king, point the finger at the king. He did it. It's the king's fault. The king makes the decisions and the choices. But by you saying they are a monarchy, they basically represent the country or the face of the country or what have you. They're not really running things. A government is running things, and a government is basically for the people, by the people, and the people control this, and your votes control that. This way, the monarchy, the true ruling power, can hide behind the government and say it's not our fault. Well, y'all elected him. Well, y'all chose that. You didn't vote for this. So this is the reason why this stuff is happening. It's the same system we see today. Everything is being blamed on actions of people, and no blame is really going to the people who's causing this problem. So the government can say, well, it's a budget problem. If y'all want to fix it, y'all got to, pay more taxes. And then people can say, well, we don't want to pay more taxes, so it is what it is. Figure out another way to fix it. So, we see how it goes. It's a rat race. It's all a trick and ring around the rosies and a bunch of crap. But biblically, in the Bible, they're trying to justify it as, these people are wrong and kings are wrong and y'all should never accept them in the first place. And we're going to take ourselves out of the equation of, being for kings and say that biblically, spiritually, we were not for kings ever. And, this is what's going to happen, in regards to you guys taking the king at this particular time, of course, for the Hebrews, because we know not all kings was bad. So what basically ends up happening, to skip a lot of reading, Samuel appoints Saul. Saul is appointed as king, and the people love Saul. People like Saul in the beginning, but Saul begins to basically disobey all the rules. Go figure. He disobeys the laws of God and start doing stuff his own way. And, he basically tries to rush into war by performing a war ritual sacrifice without the aid of the priest. He basically frees Amalekites in a war when God tell him basically to kill all the Amalekites, don't save nobody alive, and he spares some. So, and it says here in 1 Samuel chapter 15, Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now therefore hearken thou unto the voice of the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass. Note that verse, 1 Samuel 15:3. Infant and suckling. Again, I try to get people to see these points, as I talked about before, how we can clearly show that, kill infants. They don't fit in the psyche of what the Christians talk about as their all loving, caring God. To kill an infant, a suckling, what is the point of that? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit. So I like to get people to make notes and to really write this stuff down. So when you're explaining the truth about the Bible, when you're proving your point, you have these verses to show, to get people with any kind of common sense and compassion to be like, no, I can't really follow that. I can't believe there must be more to it than to understand that this God that's about love, peace, and mercy would, authorize the killing of infants and sucklings or what have you. It's just crazy when you get into the understanding of it. It doesn't make sense and fit with what we are told God is supposed to be. So basically, God and Samuel can see clearly that, Saul might not work out. So we need to find somebody, put him on standby. So basically, David is anointed and, becomes basically one of the anointed of God. And he's basically being prepared and ready to, eventually be king. So he's anointed. Meanwhile, this is what happens with Saul. It says on 13, chapter 16, verse 13, to start here, then Samuel took the horn of oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. So Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. But the Spirit of the Lord departed from Saul, and an evil spirit from the Lord troubled him. Think about that.